Hello, this video is a step-by-step guide to your left-hand patterns assignment. So this is really step-by-step. I'm going to use a G measure because I had a request that I should use G measure. That's fine, G measure. And then the chord progression I'm using is 1-3-6-4. 1-3-6-4, so that's from last week. Okay, so this is what you should do first. G measure. Okay, 1-3-6-4. So this is even before you pick a pattern you want to work on. 1-3-6-4. Look at the Roman numerals. What do you notice? Uppercase, lowercase, lowercase, uppercase. What does that tell you? Uppercase is major triad, right? Lowercase is minor triad. So just really this is just a very big picture. The whole thing should sound like happy, sad, sad, happy. Major, minor, minor, major. Okay? So if your whole chord progression sounded just happy straight through, you're doing something wrong. Then you write down, because we are in G major, you write down pitches. GBD for 1, BD F sharp for 3, EGB for 6, and CEG for 4. Okay, so that's your first step. Now, before we pick our pattern, what do you think is the point of this exercise? Why am I asking you to learn so many patterns? Like, how would you actually use it if you're performing? Do you think you're gonna just do the pattern as a soloist, or does it have to go with something else? I mean, you can use it whatever way you want, but my first inclination is this is an accompaniment. Okay, so that's why you have two hands, but you're using one hand here. And so the next step, next progression would be to put a melody with your right hand. But you don't have to worry about that for now because we are still working things out with chords. Okay, so that's the purpose of this exercise. That's an accompaniment. So some of you might have recognized. So yeah, I think I'm going to use something very basic for this demonstration. So I'm gonna pick pattern 9 from page 9. Okay, pattern 9. This. So it sounds like this. This is a very like accompaniment like sound, right? So I'm gonna just make it up. Yeah, that's what it's for, accompaniment. Okay, so if you can pull out the page 9 and look at number 9, that's what we are gonna work on now. Now, this is the first step. Just like with your chord progression exercise, get the sound in your head first. 1 chord, 3 chord, 6 chord, 4 chord. Do that a few more times. 1 chord, 3 chord, 6 chord, 4 chord. Okay, so that's the big picture. Now, yeah, I also have to ask you to use the correct pitches, okay? Because, for example, the 3rd chord, if you forgot the F sharp, do you see how the character of the chord gets altered? This is the chord you want versus a mistake here. It's very different, right? Or it's in lowercase. Also, you're picking the pitches that belong to G major. So this is good, but this is not good either. Why? Because D sharp does not belong to G major. Okay, so make sure you get the correct pitches. Okay, so now yeah, so just to get the sound in your head, playing or root position is fine, but yeah, again, look at the 9 and kind of look at my hand at the same time if you could. So a lot of you are still doing this, all root position. root position again. That's fine, but look how much my hand moved. Especially considering that your right hand might be doing something, you know, right next to your left hand. If your left hand moved, or whatever that was, if you move that much, it's gonna interfere with your right hand, and also it's a little too busy, the movement. So that's why I've been encouraging some of you, actually really I'm encouraging all of you to now start using inversions. Making inversions might seem intimidating, but once you write down the pitches that belong to each chord like this, all you have to do is to kind of shuffle it around. Start with the root position, that's fine. But next, instead of going, think about this. B, D, F sharp, B, D, F sharp, you're here, right? If your lowest pitch next were F sharp, it already makes a nice descending line. Then do the second inversion next. You see how smooth the movement was? If you make the second inversion of the third chord, B and D are already there. Do you see that? The first chord, which we did in root position, was G, B, D, right? B and D are already here. And if you do the second inversion in the next chord, you're only changing G to F sharp. From here, I'm not going to repeat the whole pattern again. Then here. So next is the sixth chord. Resist the temptation to just go root position, okay? So we are the second inversion. We are on the second inversion, third chord. Next one, root position, I guess is fine, because if you did the root position fourth chord here, then your bass line will go, which is nice. So the first chord, root position to the third chord, second inversion. Next coming up is the sixth chord. What's left is the fourth chord. Fourth chord, yeah, you could do root position, but fourth chord, yeah, let's look at it. C, E, G, C, E, G, right? That's in root position, but E is already here. So if you don't want to move, and G is already here. So this is the sixth chord we just played. From 6 to 4, you could go. Yeah, so I'm gonna do the whole movement first. I'm going to just play in blocks. So first, yeah, one chord in root. Third chord, I mean, yeah, 3 in second inversion. So from here to here, only one pitch moved. Okay, and then from 3 in second inversion, I went to 6 in root position. It wasn't too much movement either. It was nothing like, right? So yeah, from here you went here, and then from, this is 6 root position. From 6 to 4, we went from root position 6 to first inversion 4. Okay, so the whole thing went. So it was very smooth, the movement. Then you can fit this to the pattern you have. Okay, so yeah, I think what's confusing you might be the fact that the paper only shows every pattern pretty much in root position. So you might think the first one should be the root, and the next two, I'm just going to talk about this particular pattern, but you might see the second, this part. Yeah, you might think that, oh, the second part has to be minor third apart, for example. It's not the case. Just get the kind of general idea. general idea in this case being the lowest, the bass gets emphasized. The bass might not be the root. That's what I'm trying to say. Bass in this case is root. But for the next chord, because we did the second inversion, bass is not the root anymore, but that's okay. But separate the lowest note like they did here. Separate the lowest note, then play the rest like this. And then the next one we did in reposition, that's fine. Like that. Okay? So you're definitely not all root positions. And then, now, there was another type of complication, and that part, yeah, is a little more complicated. So I'm just gonna say very quickly. Could you go to page 20? Page 20 and look at patterns 65 and 66. Yeah, 65 and 66 are very similar, pretty much the same idea. Okay, but we are in C major now, in the key of C. 65 E is just E. 66 is E's flat. So that really, what it really means is a 66 is a pattern if you want to do minor scale. Yeah. So we've been talking a little bit about how to establish a key and how to make things interesting at the same time. So about how to establish a key. If you are given a major key, then you kind of want to establish that first. So you should start as your tonic chord as a major, as opposed to. Okay. So now once you know that your audience is very comfortable with what you're gonna do, it's okay to incorporate some variation in the minor mode. For example, everybody knows that song, right? So first, when you present the theme, you go like this. Then your next variation might be. At this point, because you know your audience knows the song, it's okay to do. It's okay, but don't present your theme first in the minor key if your original is major key. So what I just presented with the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star song actually doesn't have much to do with what we have to do immediately. But since a lot of you are interested in arranging your own songs, I just wanted to give you some idea. Now, what you have to do for this week is a chord progression in a minor key. So up to this past week, our chord progression, whenever we had that one chord was in uppercase, but now it's in lowercase. So make sure the first chord you hear will be like this, not, okay? Because your first chord is the one chord, but now in lowercase. But that part too is taken care of if you wrote out your pitches correctly. Okay, but as you pick your pattern, you might have to be careful. For example, could you now look at page 8, number 3, page 8, number 3. Let's see you want to do this pattern in our current week's homework. This is a C major chord, they even tell you. Okay, so let's say you are going to do your chord progression in G minor. Okay, so then you have to change this to a minor chord. Okay, just because their example is in major triad, don't think you have to make your G minor chord progression into G major. So this is what you want, not this. But if your next chord, I think you're doing 1 3 7 4, yeah. So in our actual homework this week, 1 is lowercase, 3 and 7 are uppercase, and followed by 4 in lowercase. So again, you already should have a mixture of minor and major triads. So yeah, this exercise is especially difficult to just trying to communicate to you this way, but I hope this video is somewhat helpful. But I would say the most important thing for you to do when you are starting the chord progression is write out the pitches you need to use for each key. Then don't pick anything, don't play anything else that don't belong. Okay, I hope it's, yeah, well, we'll do our best and I'll see what happens. And you know you're not losing any points by having to revise. So, okay, so don't worry too much. I look forward to seeing what you have. Thank you.